Very honest, the last thing
You're good.
Call this Board of Directors meeting
Thank you.
to order. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have the vouchers and we had the opportunity to review them. Do I have a motion to approve vouchers? Motion, is there a second? Second. Motion is second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, I will turn it over to the General Manager for the monthly reports for March.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been advised by my Director of County Finance that I can only speak to the financials when it's in the red, and if it's in the black, that I need to turn it over immediately. So without objection, I'm going to turn to our director, and he can inform us that we are in fabulous shape.
We're in fabulous shape.
There you go.
What you have before you is the revenue and expense summary through March 2021. And as you can see, both departments, the electric department had 252,000 net income, and the water and sewer had right at 28,000 net income. That's a solid month for both departments, especially for the month of March. Year to date, the electric department is 1.4 million ahead of the forecast. And I show you every month, and I'm going to show you again that long-term partnership plays a big role in that. While our general manager fought for this for years and years and years, he finally was able to get it through by signing that in September of 2019. We are now almost at the $2 million mark, which is a great accomplishment for our general manager and for TVA as a whole. The water and sewer department, sales are pretty close to what we anticipated. Our expenses are well under what we anticipated, and we are 68,000 ahead of the forecast in the water and sewer department. So both departments are doing quite well. Fabulous, I believe, is the correct word to use. And I'll answer any questions you have.
Billy, I had a question.
Okay.
We had a sort of a cool April into May. What does that do for that type of spring? What does that do for?
As long as it's a balance, what we look for is balance in our month, because we pay a demand, which is based on the highest usage during any 1 hour period. So as long as the month is pretty consistent, we do really well. It's whereas you have it's 60 degrees, and all of a sudden it drops to 25 degrees at night. Then you're paying TVA for this huge peak, which is where our virtual power plant, you see that what we save on peak every month, and that really impacts that. But typically those are months that we tend to try to break even, and so far we're doing really well between the partnership credit and the pandemic credit that we received from TVA. So I don't expect it to be any problem at all.
If I could add a little to that, we was on a call with Jeff Lyash, and they are now moving to extend that credit another year, which would be significant for us, this pandemic credit. So that's going to be a real positive. The other thing is, as Dudley was saying, that the fluctuation, you deal with kilowatts and you deal with kilowatt hours, and that's where we need enough kilowatt hours to backfill a spike in the KW, because we pay, depending on the season, $9 or $10 plus for each KW that we spike up. That's why when we shave that peak, for every KW, we're saving $10. You see, so if we have a spike and we have to pay a high demand charge, and we don't have the KWH revenue to offset that, that's when you really you go the wrong way and you get upside down. And folks, this is because it's a mild month. At the most mild month, it's $10.35 what we pay for a KW. We save $38,000 in the most mild month because you see where the peak was from 2 to 3 o'clock here on the 28th of April. But it was steady, and the KWH was steady, so we made money.
Thank you. Any other questions? Right here, a motion to approve the monthly reports for March.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. Motion second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Project status report, item 6.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're tracking 3 projects for you in electric. They all deal with the aerial cable, and we have 1 project that we're tracking in the water, and that is ongoing with the North Main Street system improvement. I'll be glad to, I'm going to talk a little bit about that North Main Street, but I'm going to try to put both of these together unless you've got a question. The North Main Street, what we're waiting on there is TDOT, because they want that repair to settle. So when the final topping goes on, we'll mill it and top it. When that final goes on, there won't be any depressions or potholes. They're wanting traffic over that thing right now. And the city, by the way, I'd like to say how much we appreciate Roger and his team because they're working great with us and coordinating with Roger's group under their contract for all of this street repair. And that has saved us money, and it also saved us a lot of headache because it's done to their specifications, and the timing of that, they're able to coordinate with everything else that they're doing. So it appears to be a win-win for both the city and for us, and I attribute that to Roger's leadership.
All right. Anything else?
No, sir. Unless there's a question.
Anybody have a question on project status reports? And then we'll move on to item 7.
We've got 1 vehicle here that we're trying to purchase. You should see it as a service truck. This we had in our budget. Let me tell you, we missed it. Last year when we budgeted for this, we budgeted $75,000. As you can see, it came in at $83,732. This is a high-end F600, and this will pull our big equipment that we now have to rely on a dump truck to pull. So this will be a great addition to the fleet in the water and sewer department, and you can see the chassis that goes with that is substantial also. It's just 30-some thousand. So we recommend that the board approve, even though our original estimate was at 75. We're satisfied that the additional monies are justifiable. I recommend the board approve the service truck for the water and sewer department for $83,732.60.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
And then a second? Second. Motion and second, any discussion? Anybody have anything to ask or question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, is approved. Move on to the review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You should have seen in your packet what we like to do. Budget time is a difficult time. There's a lot of numbers rolling in and out, and capital outlay is the key because it is essentially our roadmap for what we plan to do in terms of capital construction in all the departments for next year. And we list these things out, and then we go through our budget, and when we look at what our anticipated revenue streams are that are going to pay for this, and what our cash balances projected are at the end of that period. And that way, we know if we've got a budget to where we need to ask if we need to borrow money. So I don't like to give you all of that in one sitting. I want to give you an opportunity to review what we preliminarily look at in terms of capital. This is what we currently look to ask for approval for next month in the budget process. And this way you can go down some of that, and that way if something strikes you a little bit, you can say, hey, what about this? In electric, we've got that broken down, and years ago I put a space, and you'll see if you go down in new services, you get to a space after general work orders at 800,000 in electric. Everything 800,000 and above is pretty much standard stuff, and that's not so much a trackable item as a project. That is, these small general work orders and plant additions, we're doing that all the time. You know, we're replacing poles and conductors. We're doing that all the time. Small line extensions, tools and equipment, new services. And if we get a ton load of new services, obviously that number is going to go up. You know, we're not going to say, well, we got 115,000, that's it, we can't help you anymore. So I want you to know that space is a demarcation of what you see almost every year, and those numbers don't normally change that much. Everything below that is a capital project that over time we'll be working that out and bringing each individual one to you for approval as we go. And you can see a lot of them are with the distribution lines. We'll always be working with distribution lines because that is in our forecast of what we do, and we try to target and identify areas that need upgrade the most. And we like to keep this conductor changed out because we're looking at stuff that was probably built in the 1950s, and a lot of it's copper cable. And copper over time becomes brittle, and if you go down an old country road and you look up there, every now and then you see something looks like a squeeze-on is what we call it, where we put two pieces of copper together. And you can see those all up because what happens is it breaks, then you go out there and you bring it up there and you put it together and you squeeze all that back together. It's like a shark bite, you know, essentially. Well, that's just saying that as that line gets thermal and heated, you know, it's more brittle and it breaks. So what we do is we make contributions to the system in order to provide the level of service that we do. And our go-to now is this aerial cable. It's aluminum, and it's done really well. It's got a great profile, and we've got tremendous success with that. We started using that in NARS years ago, and we haven't had an issue on that conductor for a failure since we put it in. So we like that a lot. All of these lines will also be brought out to the road to better service them too, and to identify outages. I don't like to be in somebody's field at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get a line truck back there to put a pole in. So everything in the back, I'm now going to try to get on road right away, and that way you can get a bucket to it. So the distribution system and those lines I've bulked those together. Then we've got things in the substation. We've got a circuit breaker in there that was put in 2001. That's reached its life. We change those out before they fail. The pole replacement program we do every other year. We identify poles in 1 year, and the next year we put money in the budget to change them out. And what they do is they literally core those, drill them, core them, a suspect pole, and they use hammers, you know, in order to, then they listen to see if they're being rotted out from inside. Some utilities, a good pole is any pole that's not laying on the ground. We try to change our poles out. I've literally seen on systems where the conductor is holding the pole up. There is, you know, you can put a ruler in under the pole because there's a gap that much because it's rotted all out. So we try, and we've done, and the advantages of that are we're not doing this kind of work in an overtime position by an outage. And that's why when storms come through, some utilities got 40 and 50 poles down. We got 5, you know, because a pole will come down in a storm event. So all of those things that we're doing, and the vehicles that we've replaced, we're replacing a little more than usual here. We didn't replace, and I try to do that. I try to rotate them out. So other than that, we make our contributions towards our distribution system, our Flizzer, we've got that. Always making a contributions to put out the switches that we need and identifiers out that we need in order to complement the system that we already have. We've now got it down to any one circuit go out. We can contain that within about 300 customers. Our hope is to bring that down to about 200, between 175 and 200 customers. And over time, we'll do that because we make contributions to the smart switches that we put out there all the time. So that's pretty much electric. And again, I know I'm throwing a lot at you. That's why there's nothing that you need to do tonight unless you've got a question. And that way you can let that seep in. In the water and sewer department, again, you'll see the space, it's a little bit bigger space, but everything 110,000 from the general work orders up is pretty much standard stuff. And then we get down to what are we doing capital on the system. Now, we're going from electric, which is, you know, 80-some million dollars a year, to the water and sewer department, which is $1.5 million and $2 million. It's a lot different from plus 30,000 customers to less than 7,000 customers in water and sewer. When electric, the monthly bills come in, the revenue's a lot more than these $50 a customer water and sewer. So money makes a big difference. We have been making and would continue to make a contribution to replace the galvanized water mains. And we're going to do that until we eradicate those completely in our system. Again, we're going back to lines that were put in before there was a Clinton Utilities Board. And we're replacing all of those mains. They all weep. And that'll help our water losses too. It's not that there's leaking, there's weeping, you know, and it's through the whole line. And it's not good. It's not a good system. So $90,000 is the placeholder we have for that. On our water treatment plant, well, we're putting in a new pump. It's a variable speed pump. We had what we call an altitude valve put on, because this is phase 2. Phase 1 put an altitude valve on one of our reservoir stations. And historically what they did is that pump goes full speed all the time until water shoots out the top where you know, so I mean, you see a tower and you've got water just flying out the side of it, the overfill, because we don't know it's filled until the water's shooting out, you see. This altitude valve we've got on there, and it communicates. This variable speed will save us because it's only going to go at the level that we need in order to keep that topped off, and we're not going to have water coming out of the side doing that. That's $200,000. $750,000 is for the headworks, the screening, right there at our wastewater treatment plant, and that's all of this stuff that comes in. We're talking about trying to do some public notification again. These handy wipes that go down there, I mean, cloth diapers go down there. Anything that'll flush down a commode is winding up at the headworks, and it is flat, gumming up everything all the time. So we need to address that because of the ability to handle the maximum load coming in, which is when our system supercharges with a great big rain event. And we've had some biblical rains here in the last few years. And when that comes through, we have to handle it because we just can't send it to the river, you see. So this headworks, although it's a lot of money, $750,000, it's an improvement in order to keep in compliance with TDEC, we're going to have to do. And finally, in the big one on this is 1.5 million, and that 1.5 million is the rehabilitation of the Riverbend area. That's an old line going through there, and that has been an issue and a problem for this utility for a very long time, and for the folks that live in that area. It is now handling that whole part of town going through, and it's not doing a good job doing that. So we need to expand that where we can. We're going to pipe burst it, run a machine down there because it's clay, and it'll push it out. We'll be able to put actually a bigger diameter pipe in there than what's in there now by just going in and pushing it out. So we look to contract that out, and that's going to be at $1.5 million. Now, this 2.9 million in water and sewer is significant, but we have funds to where we don't have to borrow money to do this job. So we'll be able to do that with current revenue without borrowing money. However, if we look to potentially put a water main up to the interstate, to the I-75 Industrial Park, which we're trying to do, we've had like 7 iterations on potential grants, which we now are in another iteration trying to get that. It's been a challenge. We hope to get something, and in that, our contribution could be substantial, well over $1 million, could be 2. If we get to that, and that becomes a match for us to get the grant, then I'll be coming back to the board, and I'll be recommending that we borrow the money, not only for that, but for this also, because interest rates are so low that I think it'll be the right thing to do, and it'll get all the capital outlay that way. So that's my 3-minute spiel on capital. Yes, sir.
Are we gonna get caught if the Fed start raising interest rates? Is that gonna hurt us?
No.
Look ahead of that?
No, we've got one issue that we're dealing with now, and that's fixed. So, no, we're solid.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna borrow money.
Well, no, we shouldn't, because it'll be municipal, kind of under the municipal. There is an argument there, if the interest rates go up, we'll actually make money. I mean, we've got about 4 million, give or take. So you let the interest rates go up 1% or 2% on return for investment, and it'll rival what we make in net income. You know.
Are y'all on, you got like a fixed rate swap or something going on in your debt?
No, it's
Talking about
fixed.
the variance between the current rate, the old rate, and these new rates.
We don't have anything in water and sewer, and this is what we're
Right.
talking about here. But what we have in electric is fixed. There is no variable rate in that, and we only have one issue left. Isn't that right, Ted? One? And we could
Greg's
address,
referring to is the interest return on their money.
right.
Oh, I
If
understand. Okay.
investment.
I got you. Is this, so if we fund it out of cash, my assumption is we'd fund it out of cash, then is what you're saying?
We fund this out of cash.
If we don't get the other and have to do.
That's right.
Do you have a minimum balance that you like to keep in that cash?
We do, and we would still be able to maintain
able
that.
to have it, okay.
That's correct. We are, that's always been the issue with water and sewer, because financially, we've been so strong, but the net income, that's why our rates are so competitive. The net income, we'd get upside down on that because of depreciation. You see, so, because that goes right to the bottom line of net income, and the state says you can't run 2 years in the red. And it's not like we were running in the red because we didn't have sufficient operating or sufficient reserves, and we had no debt. You see, they changed the way they calculated how we could report. And that's why they're saying, hey, y'all have to do something, and we did. But we have tremendous cash reserves.
Any other questions? Move on to other business.
I want to let you know that with the availability of the COVID vaccinations, that now it's pretty much, you can go over to Jim and get one that same afternoon. He's got it posted on what days you get Pfizer, you get Johnson & Johnson, you get the Moderna, depending on what you want. He's got a menu over there. You can just pick it. With that vaccinations, and I think we were down to 50 or 60 something in Anderson County active cases. You know, we want to get back to normal, and I'm going to put a memo out tomorrow that beginning June the 1st, we're moving back to our normal work schedule, as opposed to what we now do is rotate the shifts. I've got guys coming in at different times in the morning, so they're not all congregating together. I've got one crew without moving to another crew, because if one got infected, I only wanted that one crew to get infected. So I'm moving everybody. My intention is to move everybody. We rotated the shifts up front to where we have some folks home, working from home, doing CR work, and some at the register. So if someone got exposed up here and I had to clear that whole front, then I bring the other group in. What I'm trying to say is, come June the 1st, we're going to be back to a normal pre-pandemic work schedule. And that's going out tomorrow. Now, we're still working, we have worked, and we'll continue to work with our customers that have a hardship on that. They got to keep their current bills up, but I'll work with them as best we can in order to make sure they don't get deeper in the hole. But anybody that's got a problem, especially related to their ability to work because or a sickness that they have, we're working with them just as much as we could. And next month we'll have the budgets, and I'll get those on your iPads just as quickly as we can. And if you've got any questions about the capital outlay, which again is the meat of what we do, everything else just is numbers that are supporting whether or not we have sufficient funds in order to fund what we want to do. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions or any other business to be brought before this board? Hearing none, I move to adjourn.
Okay.